This is the moment we waited for. Everything you want is right here. We gon' give them what they came for. We gon' take it up from last year. Shoot 'em a shot, boy, I'm long range. Me and the team on the same thing. Stayed down, never switched up. Only thing changed was the game. I'm in the zone now. Nothing can change what we on now. When I pull up, know it's going down. Foot on the gas, ain't no slowing down. Aiming for greatness, no settling.
What up, what up, what up? It's your boy Phil, all caps, and I am back with another episode of the New York Knicks Nightcap show. It's been an interesting week for New York Knicks fans. Some are jumping out the building, ready to trade Cat. Some think Jalen Brunson is the worst thing that's ever happened to the Knicks. Some people believe that he is the savior of New York. But like every week, it's been a fun time for us, and I'm excited to hang out with my guys, Apollo and Eru, like always. So I'm gonna bring them up real quick. Oh, that's not even who it is. Hold up, that's too much. That's too much goodness. All right, we'll bring that up in a second. All right, technology is horrible sometimes, but anyway. So I got my guys up here with me. How you guys doing?
Cool, good, man. Bro. Peace, man. How you doing?
I'm good.
You rescued me from the Matrix just now. I was stuck in the Matrix.
Yo, Apollo, I gotta, apologize to you. Apollo learned what it's like to have Puerto Rican family the other day. My mom had the package of all his whiskey samples out in North Carolina for him to pick up. And she was like, yeah, of course I'll be there. Just tell him to text me when he's 10 minutes out. He texts her 10 minutes out. Nothing. Ghosts. 30 minutes later, he's like, yo, bro, where's mom at? I call her. She's like, I'm leaving the office now. And I'm like, holy crap. Like, you just experienced what Puerto Rican time is like. Everything is an hour later. So I apologize to you on national television for Norma Teresa Avalos and keeping you that late in the game because you were trying to get dinner for your family so you could watch the Knicks. So I apologize if you missed some of the first quarter.
Listen, bro, I didn't miss any of it. It's cool. I didn't. Your mom, in a way, was my mom in the sense that she knew that I needed a nap, so I took that opportunity, and I'm up there. I'm getting up there in age now. I need more naps than I used to. So I took advantage of that opportunity and took a nap. You know what I mean?
Well, I appreciate that, Grace, because like I was sweating for you, and Krista's like, "What's going on? She's not there. She told Apollo she'd be there. Like she's freaking out." So I was just like, "This sucks," because I hate missing tip off. Like I do. Like unless I know that I'm missing tip off, it's a disappointment. But when I don't know, that's the frustrating part. I want to give a shout out to everybody that's in the chat right now. I see Mr. JT Riddick, one of the best moderators in the game. Appreciate you. My guy, Prezi the Boss, fellow whiskey enthusiast. My guy, Nostalgic Nick, we appreciate you being in the building. Queen Ebony, like always, with some of the best takes in the game. And then we got David Smith up in the chat as well. We appreciate you guys. We appreciate you always lighting up the chat. If you can, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, retweet, whatever. I'm trying to get this onto Instagram. We'll see if it actually happens. Sometimes StreamYard's a little bit difficult when it comes to Instagram. But guys, I'm excited for this episode because we're going to start it off a little bit different. Like, yes, we're frustrated with the Knicks. Like, we understand that. 2 games ago, we were on cloud 9. Everybody in the city's going nuts like they always do. Knicks in 5. We dropped the ball this last game. So we got a lot to talk about with the Knicks. But I want to do it with someone else on the panel. All right? Because this is someone that follows the Knicks, but isn't necessarily a Knicks fan. And he'll explain a little bit of that why. But he's a big Kentucky fan. Grew up loving Kentucky. I see on his Instagram and all that stuff, him and his kids at Kentucky games. But I wanted to bring him up because he's also one of the biggest names when it comes to whiskey. I know some of you guys are whiskey enthusiasts. Some of you guys aren't. But for me, this is a pleasure. So back in the late 1800s, there was a brand, and I might get some of the facts off, but this is what I know of it. You can read 14 different whiskey websites and the information will be slightly skewed on everything. So this is what I've gotten through the years. But there's a brand, they're still around, but it was a little bit different, called Kentucky Owl. And then there was a very dark period, the dark ages of whiskey, also known as Prohibition, which was very depressing for a lot of people that enjoyed the spirits community. And in that time, a lot of distilleries turned their lights off, and Kentucky Owl was one of them. But it was from a family called the Deadmans. And so fast forward, I think it was like 2013 or 2014, there's a guy by the name of Dixon Deadman who decides with some friends to like bring some life to it. It was like Jesus to Lazarus. Here comes Kentucky Owl, like calling it out of the tomb. And so Deadman, Dixon Deadman starts bringing this brand back, but does things a little bit different than you're used to. Like he didn't just make it this distillery per se, but he worked with other distilleries and he would blend them together and create masterpieces. And the whiskey community was taken back like, yo, this guy is a master blender. He is a master at what he does. Ended up selling the brand. And then in about 2022 is when the whiskey community started buzzing, hearing about a brand called 2XO that he was starting. And I remember all of us were posting about, talking about what he was doing. And we were like, all right, bet, let's check this brand out. And he created it called 2XO because he rebarrels these hand-picked aged whiskeys and then puts it into a new char oak barrel. So 2 times of the aging in oak. And so it brings crazy flavor, crazy oak taste to it, which I love. And he's been killing it since. I remember the first release he put out was called the Phoenix Blend, and I got it instantly. We all shared it at a bottle share, and it was incredible. And he continues to put out banger after banger after banger in the whiskey community. And so when I was talking to his representatives of his team and hearing about, his love for basketball as well, I was like, all right, we need Dixon on this show. Let's make it happen. Let's showcase one of his newest, which to me, I don't know, like sometimes brands put out new stuff and you kind of compare it to where the brand was a year ago or what you first tasted from them, and it's a little bit disappointing. With him, it's the opposite. It's like, the newest one I've tasted is now my favorite. And so I'm excited to taste it with you guys. Apollo will be tasting it with us. Eru, like always, has dropped the ball in sending his bottles, so he will not be drinking anything with us, but he'll be able to get some education. So I want to bring up, without further ado, Mr. Dixon Deadman, the legend, master award-winning master blender. What up, Dixon? How's it going, bro?
It's good. That's a lot. That was a lot. I don't know who this guy is you just described, but he sounds really awesome. That's pretty cool.
He's a pretty good dude from what I hear, and in the conversations, how sometimes, they say like, don't meet the people you look up to in the industry that you're in, because a lot of times you'll be disappointed. Anytime I get on the phone or on a Zoom chat with a blender or a distiller, I always have that in the back of the head. Like, is this person going to really be, that guy that you kind of invited on and now you're just like, dang, I want you to leave. But luckily, when we talked earlier, it was the opposite. Like, we had a great, start conversation about what we were going to do tonight, and I'm looking forward to it. So
Apollo, Eru, I want y'all to know right now, like I didn't pay for this intro. Like y'all aren't getting cut out of some type of nothing there. It's just that's very kind. I appreciate it. This is fun. I'm excited.
I'm excited too, man. So let's just jump right into it. All right. So first, let's talk basketball, because what you told me on the phone actually made a lot of sense. Like where your fandom is for the NBA, for you and your sons. If you wouldn't mind, share your Kentucky love and how that flows into how you guys watch basketball on the pro level.
Yeah, I mean, there are no, and they've talked about it for years, bringing an NBA team to Louisville. I know there's a lot of people trying to get that done. But this is college sports. I mean, this is all, even with football and baseball. I mean, like it's pretty hard to be a Bengals fan for a long time. It was hard to be, we go to Reds games, but this is UK territory. It is, you're either UK or U of L. You bleed blue or you bleed red. And that, so you follow the NBA, obviously you watch some Sports Center or whatever, but this is all about college athletics. And what was really kind of great. And this is definitely probably not where you don't want to have the Coach Cal conversation, but when Cal came, and a little bit with Patino, but when Cal came to UK and he started bringing in all these guys, all these studs, the one and done thing, and all of a sudden, just pumping guys into the league, and so you get attached to these guys, and they're there, and so that it wasn't like, oh, where's my what's my team? It was like, no, these are our guys in the league. And so you follow them, through what they do up there. And you mentioned my kids. I got two young boys. We would do those camps and they love these players. I mean, my middle son is just a diehard. He's all in on the Timberwolves because he's a big Rob Dillingham fan when he was at UK. And, now he's an Ant-Man. He's a diehard Ant-Man. And then I three of the guys that are partners with me in 2XO are New York guys and big Knicks fans, and I used to have to hear about how much, Julius Randle drove everybody crazy. I hate Julius Randle, and then of course, then the big trade, the Big Cat and Randall trade. And I was like, well, I'll see what you get there, So
Yeah. And it's cool because, like, as a Kentucky fan, that you've then watched the players that were in Kentucky. The two biggest for us in, the last few years were Kentucky, besides obviously Brunson, but, the Randall years were Kentucky boy, that we brought in to kind of see what we can do to make that playoff push. And now the same thing with Cat. And it's funny because
Quickly was a UK guy too.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yep. And so it's funny because, like, we have such a funny New York fan base and we joke about it all the time. Like, we can be so gung-ho, like hate towards somebody. There's so many people that follow us or watch us or that we follow on the timeline that they wanted Julius Randle gone, like, no matter what, like I was okay with trading him, but there's some of those people that now Cat's not playing the way that they want, and they're like, oh man, if we had Julius Randle, we had Randle back. Yeah. And I'm like, what? Like, how do you spin the block like that much? Like, how do you completely just switch it like that?
You don't know what you got till it's gone. That's what it is.
Yeah. And that's a fact. So before
sometimes that ex-girlfriend looks pretty good,
That's
how many times did that happen in life?
Yeah, it was epic, man. It was epic. It's changing the world right now.
It was epic.
Before I get you guys in trouble, we're gonna move on with the conversation. But let's talk real quick of your whiskey journey. Like, how did it start? Like, was it something that you were always into? Was it always part of your family because of, the history of the distillery? Like, what made you actually want to dedicate a career to whiskey?
I didn't. Okay. Honestly, the distillery was in my family. The history was there. And I became a bourbon guy. Yeah, it's really hard to not be a bourbon guy in Kentucky. You get bourbon in your bottle. But I was in the hospitality business. I was the restaurant hotel business. That was my family business. 5 generations, 100 years of doing this. But I had this bourbon passion, and I thought, this would just be really cool to bring this brand back to it was a passion project. It was not I've got a 3-year plan, 5-year plan. It was total passion project. I thought, it'd be really cool to put this stuff in a bottle and be able to share it with my father and his sentimental thing. And then if no one ever buys it, I'll have a bunch of whiskey to pour at my kid's wedding one day, but I was very specific about how we were going to do it, about the approach. I thought, I found a soft spot in the market that made sense to me that we could, we could go after. And it was kind of a right time, right place, right time thing. And I did not expect it to do what it did. I did not expect to, it was like the first time it's like, oh, that was cool. And then let's try this again. It's like, wow. And so for, up until 2 years ago, through the Kentucky Owl thing, launching 2XO, everything, all of that, that was like a side hustle. It was a side gig. And I'd get up and get on an airplane and do paperwork and fill out, do payroll on an airplane, go pour whiskey with people all over the country for 3 days and come back and wash dishes and bus tables and stuff. And so it was it really started as a passion project. This would be a cool thing to, there's a real opportunity here. I've now found a purpose in this. I'm passionate about it and I want to pursue it. So, it's just kind of one of those things that I think, I just, it kind of lights a fire under it and you're like, yeah, this is a lot of fun.
Yeah. I love that because it's funny how, when you launched 2XO, how many people in the industry, I think thought it was going to be bigger than you thought it was going to be, like it was an anticipation thing, like I remember someone reaching out and being like, yo, did you hear about this new thing that's dropping? And it was like an excitement because you had built a name for yourself doing something different, being this blender of, and you see a lot more blending now, that's something that is a lot more common. But you kind of built a platform on something that wasn't the norm, kind of like Cat being this big, shooting threes, like you're a big and you're going into the, 3-point contest, and you're like, what's this guy going to do? Like I remember so many people just being like, that's cool that Cat's going to be part of it. And then he ends up winning the 3-point contest that year, as this big. So it was cool to watch.
Definitely the first time I've ever been compared to Karl Anthony Towns, and it'll likely be the last. I think I appreciate that. I think I've always been all my life. It's like everybody's zigging, I'm gonna zag. And even the bourbon thing when I was thinking about putting it together, what we're gonna do. It's kind of like when everybody says, man, I don't know if that's a good idea. That's going to be really hard. Whatever, all of that, maybe it's the redneck in me. I'm like, oh yeah, watch this kind of thing, so there's a lot of that to the story. It's like everybody says, well, you can't crack into this world. You can't do this. You can't. And it's like, well,
watch this.
Maybe
you have the support of your family too, because it's a legacy business kind of.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's that was, those times, all the things that you do, to me, still the goal was to be able to create something to resurrect this old family brand and share it with my family, and doing that. Those are the most the most meaningful moments of kind of my journey in this thing are kind of those points. Selfish, but that's the truth.
That's awesome, man. So I'm gonna say this real quick before we start talking basketball. It's funny that you say the redneck in me, yet all three of us on this panel nodded heads because that's still a New York mentality. Like and like as a Puerto Rican growing up in the city, it was always like, oh, you don't think I can do it? All right, I'm going to show you that I can do it. I'm not going to quit till I do it, and I'm going to do it better than your favorite person that did it, So you got the street cred, and that's honestly, like, as a New Yorker, when I started actually branching out to other music, because until I was late in my teens, I thought all music was horrible besides hip hop and Jersey dance music. And I used to seriously like think I thought rock and roll was like devil music and a whole bunch of crazy white people that just like, whatever. And when I started listening to other music, I actually fell in love with country because I felt like country music had that same like doubt me, let me show you kind of mentality and lyrics behind it. So I understand, I don't speak fluent redneck, but when you said that, we were on the same page there. So I appreciate that.
Ain't nothing but a little culture, man. We all can relate to that,
That's right.
The hood mentality, the redneck mentality, the Caribbean mentality. We were talking about Puerto Ricans earlier.
Yeah,
it's all the same thing.
That's awesome.
That's definitely a Caribbean mentality. I can speak for that.
So last whiskey question before Knicks talk. Is there a certain whiskey that for you was the whiskey that actually made you fall in love with the craft?
Yeah, I think, like everybody has those things that they drank when they were younger. We talk about like how many Beam and Cokes can you get for the $24 that are in my wallet or whatever. Yeah. But, my kind of mentor and the guy that really helped me understand blending and kind of how these different whiskeys interact with each other was a guy named Jim Rutledge, who was a longtime master distiller at Four Roses. And so Four Roses has this kind of crazy history, but the kind of the rebirth of Four Roses as a bourbon in the U.S., they took a very unique approach. Different mash bills using different yeast strains and kind of creating really a new concept in American whiskey and bourbon. And I think, Four Roses was a really kind of eye-opening experience too. Pushing different flavor profiles, pushing different, pushing against kind of the norm. And so that's a very kind of sentimental favorite of mine, just because of Jim and because of my, history with that brand or whatever.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Four Roses has always been, a staple, on my shelf, and one that I love to share with other people. So I love that.
Y'all appreciate this too, because we talk about family and culture. For 30 something years, Four Roses was only sold in the US as a blended, like cheap rot gut, cheap blended whiskey. I mean, it was like, and I remember when they kind of relaunched and it's out and this new packaging, new bourbon from Four Roses. I remember taking it to my grandfather and saying, "Hey, I want you to try this." And he said, "Oh no, Dixon, only drunks and teenagers drink that stuff."
That's hilarious. I love that. Shout out to everybody in the chat. I see a bunch of people have come in. My guy Nice is in the building. We appreciate you so much. My brother Lee Escobedo, David Smith. We got a bunch of you guys who have come in. Thank you guys for coming and joining and listening as we talk whiskey and talk basketball with Dixon of 2XO. If you guys can check it out, I put the link in the chat and I'll put it again. Follow what 2XO is doing, support them. If you are a whiskey fan or curious about what we're talking about, go out and pick up a bottle. Any of theirs are going to leave you happy, so I can't tell you not to pick one up or to pick up a different one, but try variations of it. Give it different shots, and I know you'll find something. So I appreciate you guys. Appreciate Shoquan in the building, Julian Bloom, our guy Fritz. But let's start talking. Have you been watching the playoffs, Dixon?
I have, and I am chatting. I am going through this chat. You got some serious questions to deal with in this chat over here, man.
Oh yeah,
they're like, get the redneck off here. No more whiskey talk. We got some stuff we need to deal with.
I love it. We do have a fiery crowd. We do.
Trey Young or Giannis thing. I love this.
Bro, it's crazy. Like, we could seriously win the chip, and the next day you will wake up to trade machines of Cat and Brunson for Giannis and Victor Wembanyama. Like, it's just crazy the things that you'll wake up to as a Knicks fan. Like, it's never a dull moment. It's like Comedy Central year round on Knicks Twitter. It's hilarious. So I love it. And I love that you've been watching the playoffs. So what are your thoughts on this series so far with us versus Boston?
Well, when Jason Tatum ruptures an Achilles and has surgery before I have breakfast the next morning, I'm like, all right, this is a wrap. Like this is done. And then I was listening today, and I love it. I think the team, and I think it's TV. I think the team is involved. It's conspiracy. It's under the but. They're like, no, we don't want to win that. We don't want to close them out in Boston. We want to do this in the Garden. Like they said, hey, now let's take it home and let's do this, tomorrow night. So it's made for TV. This is like Disney got involved. There's a Netflix series about to start being taped on this thing. It's good. It's
30 for 30.
Yeah.
It's so crazy because like, my wife and I were talking about it the other day, and she's like, do you ever feel like part of it is staged? And I'm like, yeah, sometimes I do feel like, I look at Adam Silver and I see Vince McMahon, all over again, and I'm like, oh, Stone Cold and The Rock again? Lakers versus so-and-so? Like, how the heck did Luka Doncic get traded? One week he's called a generational talent. The next week he's traded and only one team was talked to about it. Like no one tried to leverage anything. They didn't try to get anything great. So it does feel like that.
Dallas gets the number 1 pick in the draft. Surprise.
Right? Yeah, right. It's like,
right. Yeah. Come on.
It's crazy. It's crazy. You trade Luka and now you get the next big white boy on your team in Cooper Flag. Like it just works itself out that way sometimes. But this series is crazy. So 2 games ago, because we haven't met since last Thursday, 2 games ago, it looked great. We took that 121-113. Sadly, Tatum got injured, but let's be real. It wasn't because Tatum got hurt that we won that game. Brunson had 39, 5 rebounds, 12 assists. Mikhail did well. Cat did well. OG did well. Mitch great on defense and on Deuce as well. That was a great game. We ended that going, oh my gosh, we could win this in 5. Like the city was going crazy. Knicks in 5. So, Iru, what were your thoughts after that game? Like, were you believing Knicks in 5? Were you, still a little, speculative of what could happen? What were your thoughts?
I don't know what we're doing, to tell you the truth, man. I don't know how the Knicks are winning games. I just don't. Like, just watching them play, like the Knicks let the Boston run us down and pull up for threes. And like, sometimes we rebound, sometimes we play defense. Like now guys are not communicating. That's the big thing, the big topic. So I don't know what the Knicks are doing. So, just I think I'm more happy to be with my fellow Knicks fans cheering and stuff, being in a spot where like other Knicks fans are going crazy and just enjoying the moment, because like, being in those moments, we're having those conversations like, yo, what are the Knicks doing, bro? Everybody's stressed. We're down by 20. Next thing you know, all of us are like, hugging each other, don't even know the strangers and stuff. So I think I'm having more fun with the moment, just being a fan and stuff, being with other Knicks fans that know the history. I think that's what I've been enjoying the most. But I can't comment on the game because the Knicks are doing everything wrong until they do it right. So that's what it is.
What's crazy is like, I love that you just speak straight up truth, because I honestly think that game was the only game that I looked at it and go, okay, we're at least playing decent comparatively, because the other games that we won, Boston was shooting horribly, like absolutely horribly, where you have annoying celebrity pizza men, using their platform to talk about how the Knicks only won because Boston couldn't shoot, and it was their worst 2 shooting, outings of the whole year. So I looked at those games and I was just like, we did not play well. Boston just played horribly, like when it came to shooting. So that game, I was at least looking and saying, okay, they have a full-on healthy team. We're winning. and we're going back and forth. It's not pretty, but it's not pretty on both ends. And we're causing them to play a little unpretty. They're causing us to play a little unpretty. But in that last game, I completely agree with you, because what we saw in this last game, which we're going to get to, was one of the hardest games for me to watch in a long time for the Knicks. But let's talk about that win, Apollo. What was your thoughts on that one?
On the win?
Yeah, on the win.
I mean, it felt I mean, especially once we took the lead and it was kind of like we controlled the game. You know, they were making shots too here and there, but we had control of the game. You could tell like the energy was ours. Like we had that game. And then of course, you know, when JT hurts himself, you know, that kind of like, you know, I don't like seeing people get injured. I've played basketball. I've had plenty of injuries while playing basketball, and I don't like seeing injuries. So it bothered me. My wife was sitting there like, "You really mad? I thought you wanted the Knicks to win." I'm like, "I do, but like, damn, I just don't like seeing people get hurt." But outside of that, I left that game like, yeah, Knicks in 5. We got this. You know what I mean? But you know, you really can't underestimate a team that's just won a championship at the end of the day. But I definitely was on cloud 9. I was jumping out the window, and you know, this is why it's a series. It's a series, though.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that, because I tweeted that was probably one of my most memorable moments as a Knicks fan. Have I seen better moments? Yes. But I was with my 7-year-old, my 4-year-old. It's way too late. They're still up with me. We're watching the game. We're celebrating. My wife's there. I call my brother, and my brother answers the phone like this. I called him like this, and we're on FaceTime. And I look over, and my 3-year-old and my 7-year-old are both there doing the Brunson at the same time me and my brother were. So it was all 4 of us with my wife there laughing. And then we were like, kiss it up. And all of us did it at the same time. So it was me and my big brother, my youngest son and his big brother. And it was just like a really dope moment. And then same as you, you know, we hated watching Tatum go down, you know, like that's unfortunate. You know, I never want to see a talented player like that get injured. But I also don't want to like ever have them not know what could have been, kind of like we did last year because of injuries, you know, like, and it'd be like, oh, injuries chalked it up. So we actually got together, me, my brother, me, my sons, and my wife, and we prayed over Jason Tatum's health. And it was just like a really cool, like, experience for me as a Knicks fan that night. Celebrating, but also just like putting the morals in my kids, like, hey, we're not going to be David Portnoy hoping and telling Mikhail that he hopes that he doesn't get injured in the game. You know, like we're not wishing that stuff on anybody. Dixon, as a non-Knick fan, what were your thoughts in that series? Like, because, you know, some people are like, oh, Knicks are trash. Look how bad they are. They're winning these games out of luck. And then you had a game like that where it's like, no, that wasn't luck. Like we actually went toe to toe with them. How does that look as a,
I'll tell you, last week, I was in New York City last week, and we were doing a bunch of media stuff. And I think the first game I watched was game 2, and we finished this event, and we just got one of the 2XOs, the American Oak, on the bar at Sparks Steakhouse in man, you know, that iconic Sparks Steakhouse. And so we go and we're watching, and that game, you know, that was a heck of a game. Yes. And by, you know, with probably 4 or 5 minutes left in that game, I feel sorry for the people that were eating in the restaurant, because we were in the bar, the entire kitchen crew is out there, like everybody, like, you know, I got my arm around one dishwasher, and, you know, like I was like 2XO for everybody, like, let's go, you know, let's do this. But honestly, like there's like grit to that team. Like there's just a certain, and like, I don't know, like, I really like what y'all got going. I think it's a fun team to watch. It somehow is, you watch them sometimes and you're like, wait, why are they just taking about 10 minutes off here? Like why are we just So that's kind of my take on the Knicks. Like they could be world beaters, and sometimes it's like, what exactly is going on here? Like what?
Yep.
So,
and that's a perfect segue to this last game, because I understand Tatum getting injured and Boston, wanting to fight hard for their guy. Like anybody likes a good story of, fighting for your person, like whether it's in battle or whether it's in sports. I remember the Mighty Ducks, when they hurt they hurt somebody, and then Charlie and all them gather and they're like, oh, we're gonna win this game for him. Like that's always been something that we can relate to. So I expected Boston to come out and hit hard. What I didn't expect was for the Knicks to come out with kitty gloves. Like it seriously looked like we were just swinging and nothing was hitting. It's like when you fight with your son for the first time, and they're thinking that they're bold and brave, and you kind of just hold their head while they start swinging. They can't reach anything, but you're just holding them there while they swing effortlessly and nothing lands. That's what I felt like we watched in this last game. Like it was so upsetting to watch this game and see foul after foul from Brunson, seeing, like all these guys look like they had no effort, no energy. When the highlight of a game is the fact that Mitchell Robinson hit 6 for 6 free throws, you had a very uneventful night. You know that there was nothing great in your night when your huge celebration is the guy that couldn't hit a free throw hit 6 of them. Woo! Celebrate. So that was a rough game for us to watch. But before we talk about that game, shout out to everybody else that recently joined in the chat. I see Ernesto's up in here. I see Nice is blowing up with the comments. The Man Cave's in here. Sky is in here. Appreciate you guys. Nick Yak is in the building. With some really good points. I'm going to star some of these real quick. Shout out to my guy Fritz. He said Cat doesn't have a coach who maximizes the offense. If the Knicks are serious, they get an offensive guru to run the offense. That can be an assistant running the offense instead. That's been huge conversations as well, is how do you have one of the best shooting big men in the league barely shooting threes in the playoffs in a NBA that's full of 3-point shooting. And when he's matched up in the paint, how is he not getting more attempts in the paint? And why is he getting such little attempts in some of these games? So we'll talk about that in a little bit. Shout out right here. I think Adam McMahon is going to have it as a New York Knicks versus Minnesota in the finals. What a storyline. Puts on WWE hat. Yeah, the Randall versus Cat, finals. That would be crazy. Right here, Nick Yak. Sometimes we agree, a lot of times we don't, but this is a good one. Mitch has been a monster so far. Now waiting for Cat, the better player, to step on up. Yeah, a lot of people today on Twitter blowing up how Cat has not been the player that we expected in the playoffs this round, and how it's been a little bit disappointing, and how Mitchell Robinson has kind of exceeded expectations in these playoffs. So we're going to talk about that. But first, Mr. Apollo, grab your glass, my guy. This right here, this is what we're going to be doing. All right.
Okay.
This right here, blended by that man right down there.
That's a good looking bottle right there, man.
Bro, it's gorgeous. All of theirs have the gold little logo right here. They have one called the Sneakerhead that I'm trying to get my hands on.
Listen, if I had been, I saw your note. If I hadn't had to travel this week, I'd have made sure you got one. But I was in Columbus, Ohio until about 2:00 this afternoon. So
I appreciate it.
That's on me.
We'll definitely do another episode where me and Apollo, probably not Iru, highlight another one of your whiskeys, and we'll
Iru, I'll send you some. I got you, man.
This smells amazing. Jesus,
bro. Out the bat. So I'm going to give some of my little tasting notes and stuff like that, Apollo. And for those that are watching to, hear about it, pick it up at your local store if you guys can. I think it runs about $99 MSRP. So if you're in New York, be careful. You know, those little corner stores that are charging $2.15 or something like that for the bottle. Like, don't support their business, please. Don't get stuck in that. You know, that happens way too often.
They got to pay rent, though. I get it. They got to pay rent.
Yeah, exactly. Everything's more expensive in New York.
Right.
But this one's crazy to me. So this is part of their Icon series. I think it's the 6th release in the Icon series.
That's correct.
All right. And so this is 104 proof. So it's one of those that you don't have to worry that it's like a spice bomb punch in the face if you try to share it with a friend who's not a whiskey fan. I highlight some of those, but I always give the caution. So you're not like giving 140 proof to, you know, the person that is trying their first bourbon. That's very foolish. Don't do that. That's very painful to them. But this one, and tell me if my notes are off because you've spent so much time with your own bottles, obviously. But on the nose, like for me, I love oak. Obviously, being 2XO and having that extra char barrel, like you're going to get that. But sometimes, even as someone who loves oak on the nose, sometimes that's all you smell. And that, for me, makes me a little less excited to taste the pour. So I love that the oak is there, but it's kind of like plays nice with the other fragrances that you get. For me, I get some like vanilla caramels, and if you don't know what those are, you can find them at Trader Joe's or any like white-owned supermarket. They're the overly expensive little chocolate, you know, white chocolate covered, vanilla fudge covered caramels, but they're absolutely delicious. Bougie but delicious. I get some fig, which for me, I loved Fig Newtons as a kid. Like, people thought I was weird for liking Fig Newtons, but I could eat a whole pack of Fig Newtons on a lunch break in elementary school, and still would to this day. Fig Newtons were my jam.
Can I say
get
something?
Yeah. What do you get?
I hate Fig Newtons, and it's one reason why. I actually love Fig Newtons, but I literally broke a tooth on the Fig Newton before. I don't know how the hell it happened. Whatever seed was in there must have been the seed of God. But bro, I'm telling you, it shattered my tooth. I had to get a root canal after that shit.
So you got a little Fig Newton PTSD.
Man, PTSD, man. I don't
just hear Fig Newton.
You said Fig Newton, I was like, shit.
It's that love-hate relationship, bro. It's unfortunate. To my guy Prezi, no, it's not like Talisker. If I'm honest, I like Talisker, but this bottle's way better than Talisker. And once you hear the tasting notes, you'll know why. But I also get some cherry on the nose, and then citrus, but not like some of them you get like a full-on orange or orange grove. This to me, like, is when I'm making an old-fashioned cocktail and I'm just getting the zest from the peel and wrapping it around the glass. That's the kind of citrus that I get from it. And then on the palate, it's smooth. Apollo, go in for a sip.
So Dixon, do you agree with the assessment? Because Phil's been on point with his description.
No, absolutely. I mean, I will admit, there are two things that I hate about working in the whiskey business. And one of them is 6 a.m. flights. And the other thing is having to write tasting notes. I think they're personal and subjective. And, like you go out, you say this stuff and people are like, well, I don't taste toasted fence post in here. Am I supposed, whatever, so, but I think, where you are with this is a real good kind of description of what we've created with 2XO. It's a lot of there's those oak notes, the kind of sweet caramel vanilla notes, and then I always like to incorporate and build on both in the nose and the palate, like the kind of a fruitier note. I think the citrus on the nose, this one, the vinyl, what's stood out to me was this kind of it was almost like a tropical fruit, like a caramelized tropical fruit on the palate. Like Seth and I were tasting this and I was like, that's like a grilled pineapple kind of thing that I can taste there in the middle of the palate. And I also hate talking tasting notes too much because I feel like you're it's like leading the witness. You know what I mean? Like if I put it in your head.
True. Yeah.
But that's if Phil, if you were sitting here and you're like, yeah, I'm getting caramelized boysenberry and roasted giraffe hoof, I'd be like, what do you I can't really follow you here, but I think you're pretty spot on.
When you said that pineapple, like I can smell it now that I'm smelling it. There's another release that came out from another brand, and it was one of the first times I smelt like a charred kind of fruit as well. And that was the Still Austin Tanager.
Yeah.
And so this has very like similar like that too. Like you're out on the grill, fruit kebab, like, so that's awesome.
Those guys are awesome, man. They do great stuff. They're cool to hang with. I ran across them in Chicago one time and it turned into a lot more of a night than it probably should have been, but they make great whiskey. They're good dudes.
Yeah, they do.
Do you find that a lot in the community too? Like the other distilleries that once you meet them, everybody's like pretty much like, like chill like that?
100%. I mean, like you let the marketing people or the people that fight over shelf space, like they can fight it out all they want, and in the kind of creative space, the distiller space, the blender space, it's just such a really cool kind of fraternity or whatever. And everybody is all up for, success for everybody else. We're still very much, this industry is that kind of, I don't know, rising tide raises all ships kind of mentality. So it's a good thing. It's fun. Yeah. And then, like with anything, I mean, it doesn't matter what it is in life. You get around people that, share your same wins and share your same frustrations, and you can vent and you can chat and you can, it's just a good thing.
Yeah.
You sound like a Knicks fan, right?
100%.
Exactly.
Most of us podcasters, there's a lot of us, but we've, most of us have met each other. We all been in bars and stuff together, and it's all been love. When I first met Apollo, I geeked out like a little girl, man. I was like, oh, I was here, like that. He was like, what the, so
and that's what this show actually became. We all had our own channels, our own networks, and I was like, yo, what are my favorite things? Knicks, whiskey, like who would I want to hang out with, and just talk sports nonstop while drinking some whiskey. And it wound up being these guys. And I was like, yo, why don't we like Avenger this and bring all of our forces together and just hang out and talk basketball over whiskey? And that's how it came. And so I love it. And I agree with you. I hate leading the witness. So that's why every episode I'll actually have these guys take a sip before I ever start talking the notes so that they can like taste it for themselves first. And then after I give my notes, let them taste it and see if they can find those things as they go. So Apollo, cheers, my guy.
Cheers, bro.
That is freaking delicious. That's so good.
That's some good stuff, bro.
That's so good.
You said vanilla and caramel earlier, and I was just like, yep, I knew it. I tasted it.
Yep.
What's the name of this particular bottle again?
The vinyl blend.
The vinyl blend.
Blend. Okay.
So for me, off the bat, this is super smooth. And it's got straight sweetness up front, with a little bit of like that.
Matrix, he'll be back.
He'll be back in a second.
He'll be back.
No, I actually like where he's going with it, and that is like the whole. That was the whole point of 2XO, and that additional oak exposure is to take bourbons with a high rye content, and by that you mean it's like an inherent spiciness on the back of the palate. So you add oak, so you build sweetness on the front of the palate, so you can follow that transition. When you taste it, you can feel it on the front of the tongue. And it, the sweetness on the front of the tongue, and then it moves savory and then spice. So there's this transition, this transitional component across the palate. And I think that's probably, kind of where you were going with it, but
yeah. Before I cut
instead
out,
of being a one-dimensional, oh, this is really heavy right here. It's like,
Yep.
oh no, it kind of slides across the palate, and that's
yeah,
that's really the the intent of that double oak exposure is to
Yeah.
build that kind of complexity. So
yeah, and I love that because to me, I get one of my favorite desserts is creme brulee. So I get like a vanilla creme brulee type taste to it, with like hints of some apple. And like I said, that toasted oak that I love is there. And what I like is like the finish. The finish is really impressive to me, because a lot of times you can get a good tasting whiskey, but it's like gone super quick, or you get something that lasts a lot and you're like, ooh, that was good before it lasted so long. Now I'm not liking this finish on it. Like I don't like the aftertaste I'm getting. But on this one, I get like this long syrupy finish, and not like nasty syrup, but like the syrup was so good that after the pancake's done, you took that extra lick of the fork, even though there was no pancake there. Like that is
maybe a little butter on there. Just
exactly. Like it's like that was a dang good meal. I'm gonna finish it off. Like it's like that, and it lasts long, and not in like that friend that doesn't know when to go home long, and you're just like, dang, bro, conversation was done 30 minutes ago. Why are you still here? But it's the kind that you don't want it to end. You're just like, this is my favorite show. I don't want it to be the last season. Like I don't want this to ever end. That's what I get on that finish. So I think this is a hit. I absolutely love it. You freaking killed it on this one, Dixon. I appreciate what you do. What are your thoughts, Apollo?
I think I'm gonna go get a bottle tomorrow, and I've never actually, and it's not just because you're here. It actually, and I don't want to bullshit you just because you're sitting on the on the show. You know what I'm saying? But like the smoothness of it and everything. It's I've never really gotten into whiskey like that until I met this guy, of course, right? So I've tasted. I didn't know what the hell I was at first. I'm like, they all taste the same to me. I don't know what you're doing. But what it's done to after a while is I can actually taste the difference, because every whiskey has a consistent. There's that one consistent taste to it. So that's all I tasted at first. I'm like, oh, these things all taste the same. But now actually getting to taste different whiskeys, I'm like, oh my God, that's good.
Phil, you're so right. Like he was saying that earlier today. It's like, it's like when we started this, they're like, yeah, more whiskey. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Got to get through this segment.
Whiskeys are like an experience. I got into like drinking, like as far as drinking beers and that type of thing, you like tequilas and maybe wines and stuff. But just as someone getting older, you appreciate moments and stuff. And I just think drinking whiskey and having like a moment, like say with like a family member or a friend, or just a moment with yourself, you want to have that prolonged experience, like where you get the sip, you put it on your tongue, you taste it, and then you get the aftertaste and whatever, and then going along whatever you're experiencing, hopefully something positive. I think that whole experience is what drew me to whiskey, so that's why I'm here talking to whiskey with you guys. Even though I don't have my own whiskey, I do appreciate the experience that whiskey, brings to the table.
Listen, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I selfishly, for me, the things that move the needle for me are when people say, "Hey, whatever, we just had our first child, and I've been holding this bottle that you made, and this is when I cracked it open and toasted with my dad, and the thought of creating something that someone holds in such a high regard, to make it part of this like monumental life experience, like there's no greater compliment than that. You know what I mean? And I think so that's really the fun thing that I enjoy most about this is like we can create something that can serve in such a way as to be part of something that people are going to, a moment they're going to remember, and somehow something you created is a part of that. Like, that's just special, man. That's just, it's really cool. And yeah, granted, we got a line out there that you hope that people just drink it on a Tuesday because they want to drink. And, that's a great thing too. And we need a lot of that. But, for these and people make certain connections with things. It's just, that's what makes you want to work harder on the next one.
Yeah. And I love that, because like a lot of viewers, like don't realize that the reason I'm so into whiskey is not because this is Phil of New York teenage years where I just want to party, like this is because I love the craft. This is because there's something unique in each and every bottle. The memories that I've been able to make, with people through a glass of whiskey, like hanging out with certain people at some of the most crucial times in my life, coming out from major surgeries and, not knowing if I was going to make it through, and the local place being like, hey, you missed one of your favorite distillery's biggest releases in the last 5 years, and we saved you a bottle, like those kind of things that you get from the whiskey community through the years that make it so much more than that, And so when you were talking about like special memories, we were at King's Distilling the other day and I was doing some photo and video work. They allowed me to bring my kids in to kind of see the process of what they do there, the bottling and, blending and, stuff like that from their MGP barrels. And my kids are there and they're putting bottles up on the labeling machine, and my boys are 7 and 4. And before we leave, the owner runs to the back, grabs one of the bottles that they put up. And she was like, here, this is for you to open in 14 years. And remember that you helped us create this, and wow. You have to save half of it so that when your younger brother turns 21, like he can have it as well. And so for the next 3 days, my son was like, Dad, can you take out my whiskey bottle? I just want to look at it. Like he it was something that was like a memory for him, because he sees that like me and my wife enjoy it over some special meals, together. And so for him, it's like, oh, this is going to be cool. Me and Dad get to do this in 17 years. So I love it.
It ain't making 17 years or 14 years, but
no, this one will. They gave me one for myself, so I have my own. Okay. So I don't need to crack his, No,
but I also think that what y'all are doing and kind of what you're combining two passions, right? Your love of the Knicks and whiskey and your all's. But that's what I don't know. Sometimes do you feel bad for people that don't have things that they're like super passionate about? I mean, it's kind of people sometimes are overly passionate about bourbon and maybe overly passionate about the Knicks. I don't know, but I think like this is the memories that you make over there. I mean, I guarantee you can like there are Knicks games, there are shots, there are things that you're like you remember exactly where you were, who you were with, like. So it's it's all. It's just kind of cool to create something or be a part of something and be like, people come up to me all the time and they're like, we have a pour of this bottle because that was our first pour when we got married, and we have a pour every year on our anniversary. Yep. And it's like, man, the fact that was the bottle you chose means so much to me, I love that it means a lot to y'all, but just when you get passionate about things, it's like it fosters these great like I don't know, it develops experiences, I think.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what. I can't wait to go buy the bottle and be like, yeah, I know this guy.
That's awesome. Well, I don't want to keep you all night, Dixon, but where can people follow you? Where can they continue to see what 2XO is doing? Is there something that is coming out that they should keep their eyes on? And then last question would be, out of everything you've released from 2XO, which has been your favorite?
Well, okay. So, I mean, Instagram is 2XO Whiskey. My Instagram, which is a little more interesting because I'm not tied to the things that booze brands can do. So there's a lot of videos of me and my kids listening to hip hop on the way to school and silly stuff like that. But so at 2XO Whiskey is the brand. At Dixon_Deadman is my Instagram. I'm really excited for the first time with 2XO. I'm launching a rye whiskey later this year. So we're getting the vinyl out. So the vinyl is just now getting out. And I got a rye whiskey, a sub $50 everyday rye whiskey. We're adding to what we call our Oak Series line. So we're kind of amping up for that. That's going to be really exciting. And to kind of everything I've done, it's been in bourbon since I left Kentucky Owl. Where can we buy in New York? I mean, yes, I saw something earlier about Total Wine. We are in Total Wine. Have a lot of good partners in New York. New York is the independent. It's a tough state, but we're in a lot of different. It's not like in Texas you can be like, go to Specs. Specs. There's like 150 of them. You can't really say that in New York, but and then. In terms of my favorite, I would tell you that I think the third one I did was called it's called the Tribute Blend. That was one that has my family crest on the front, and that was one I did with my dad. He had a little health scare, and I brought my dad in and we blended that together. I made him at least participate. My dad's line is always, I'm a drinker, not a thinker. So I don't know what you're doing. And I was like, well, just drink it and tell me what you think. And, but that one maybe emotionally or sentimentally or whatever. But I also think that's about as, that one's almost dangerous as kind of smooth and easy to sip. It's kind of like, there's 8 minutes to go in this fourth quarter. I'm just going to top this glass off kind of thing. And next thing you know, it's like, wow, I did a number on that bottle last night or whatever. But hey, listen, I want to say thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity. It's great hanging. I hope I'm sure your listeners are like, get this clown off here. We need to talk about some of these Knicks issues. But I'm telling you, I saw it today, right? So this is the first time they're going to close out a series in 20 something years in the Garden on Friday night, so I'm sorry, I'm not going to be downtown to participate, but that's exciting. I'm excited. It's happening. It's happening, Knicks fans. You got this. I'm pulling for you.
Well, we appreciate you, Dixon. Like, seriously, thank you for your time and thank you for what you do. I'll be hitting you up while I'm in the area. I'll be here now and also in September. So hopefully we'll get the link.
No, let's connect.
All right, man.
Good. Apollo, Iru, thank you all. Appreciate you.
Nice
have a great night.
Have a good one, Dixon. Appreciate it.
6, man.
Dixon 6. Let's go.
Yep.
All right. That was my guy, Dixon Deadman, 2XO Whiskey. Support him. Honestly, like really, really nice dude. I love being able to build past just talking about, like, this is who you are. This is who I am, like being able to just be on that same level and have those conversations is dope, especially, since he does follow our team and what we're doing. So shout out to him. Before we go, shout out to Sky in the building. Appreciate you so much. Shout out to my guy, Prezi. He said, follow the page. And of course, I'm locked in with the Whiskey God, fill all caps to keep me locked into the best whiskey. Shout out to Wolverine right here, 1986. How can anyone think of trading our captain, best point guard in the league? Here's the thing. People that are talking about trading Brunson, to me, it's crazy. But people who also think that he's without flaw have an issue as well, in my opinion. There's things that our captain needs to do better at, and we need to be honest about that. Head down against one of the, best offensive teams in Boston is not going to win it. Like, we need all of our guys involved, and that starts from the top down with Jalen Brunson. Let's see who else is in the building. JT Riddick, dope episode. Thank you, bro. Appreciate it. But let's talk this last game, boys. You know, let's talk what we saw there. Because for me, that junk was painful, bro. Like, it was absolutely painful. But before I talk, I want you guys to talk. So, Apollo, what were your thoughts on Game 5?
I think a lot of things happen at once. So I think there's going to be a lot of different opinions, and I think they're all right. You know what I mean? I think a lot of things happen wrong in that game. Like, way too many things happened wrong. Of course, they had the assistance of, you know, the NBA, obviously, but that to me, that's like the smallest point right there. I think everything else we could have done way better. Watching these guys just miss after miss after miss. I mean, we stayed in the game for a long time until the end, and then just to see how it ended, and to know that we didn't expect them to come out as strong as they did really bothered me. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
you know, schematic things can go wrong. You know what I mean? That happens all the time. Like, but you always have to keep up the effort and the intensity. You know what I mean? You always have to keep it up. It doesn't matter if you're making shots, if you're missing shots, if they're making and missing shots, the intensity has to be there. And it wasn't there after a certain point. These guys got in foul trouble that just allowed them to go on a run without us being able to answer. Cause we know we struggle offensively, but yeah, man, it was just too much of Derek White looking like the reincarnation of Jason Tatum, and you know, just a lot of weird stuff. And then who the hell was this? The Monstars? Like, where did Luke Cornett get that shit from? You know what I'm saying? Like, I was kind of like, I'm like, who is this guy right here? 7 blocks out of nowhere. Like, this guy just turned into Mitchell Robinson. But you know, like I said, a lot of things went wrong. A lot of what I felt was emotional. So it took me a while to step back and just look. And you know, these guys were at home. They felt like they had to band together and get a win in Boston for Jason Tatum. And you know, I expected that, but you know, that's all I got for now.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Zero?
Well, it felt like we just watched something like a bad dream, or just like a repeat of a like a 80s snuff film. You know what I'm saying? That's what it felt like. Because every time we lose games, it's always the same thing. So it's just like me sitting back, I'm just watching it. I'm just getting upset about it, but I'm like pointing out, say, watch this, and my wife is watching with me, because that's another thing too, man. I was stressing out so much trying to get to a spot. And then I realized the game started at 7. So, I got out at 6:30, whatever. So I was like hauling ass. So anyway, just sitting there with my wife or whatever. So I'm pointing stuff out. My wife is in the back. She just is like, I can't believe it, because I watched 2 games with you against on the Celtics, and they literally are doing the same exact thing that they did wrong the last time. So it's just frustrating watching the Knicks do that. There was one play in particular where, because Derek White had mad 3-pointers, right? But there was one play in particular where he was on the right side of the ball. He made a pass to the passer. Then all he did was go around. He didn't run. He just like walked over there to the left side. And then the person that he gave the ball to just gave it to him on the left side. And he just took it and shot it in stride. And like the Knicks were doing all this, but they really had no clue of where the Celtics were getting their shots. Hello, maybe the guy that's like 7 for 9 for 3, maybe you might need to stay with him. So little things like that annoy me. Just like, them getting back on defense. The Knicks are more concerned with running to the paint, and meanwhile the Celtics are just trotting down the court and then wait till they get to the 3-point line and just pulling up. And little things like that, that's why, like I've said it so many different times this season, that this season has not been fun for me to watch. That's why I kind of stopped doing the watch-alongs, because the watch-alongs was just me belly aching over the same shit every freaking game. There's no adjustments, and then like even to this point now where we're deep in the playoffs, we're still doing the same stuff that we got our ass whooped on game 1 and for the start of the season, man. So it's definitely frustrating, but regardless of the fact, I still thought the Knicks could come back. You know, just basically because of how we could just turn it on. It seems like at certain points of the game, man. So, you know, just frustrating. You know, but I think the next game, you know, the Knicks are gonna like have a good game. I think somebody's gonna come out, and maybe Cat or somebody's gonna have like a really big game, and we're just gonna close them out, and then we're gonna have that rush of like instant gratification, I guess, and then we're gonna have to go through it again in the next round with the same thing, you know.
Yeah, and this is where, like, for me, I try to make it very clear that I'm not upset that we lost. Like, yeah, that's disappointing. I'm upset with how we lost. You know,
Right.
like the way we lost was not something enjoyable to watch. Like, it didn't look like anyone came out with any desire and any like extreme passion to win that game. You know, what did I say on our last episode? That we need to go out and play that game like it's a game 7 so that we close it out and we move on and we're done. You know, that if we go out there without any urgency, we're going to lose. What happened? We went out without any urgency and we lost. And so it's frustrating to me when I then hear in the post games, you know, player after player say, you know, like, we need to be better. Like, we didn't have the same, you know, desire that they did. We didn't come out with the same effort they did. We didn't come out with the same urgency they did. Like, that's frustrating to hear, you know, like, as someone that's been a fan for like as long as I've been a fan, and I don't get paid to have urgency. I had urgency for that game. Like, that game meant a lot to me. How does it not mean as much to the people that are getting paid millions of dollars to be out there? You know, like, why is urgency, lack of urgency, something we need to talk about? Like, tell me that you just didn't do well. All right, that's fine. But when you're admitting that your urgency wasn't at the level that it should have been, that's hard for me to hear. That's hard for me to stomach. That's hard for me to accept. And so that was a little bit frustrating to watch. Also, I don't care if Tatum's there or not. This team is known for shooting the highest volume of 3-pointers in the NBA. Why is drop coverage even a thought? Like, I don't understand that. I don't understand how Tom Thibodeau can allow them to run drop coverage at all. Why is OG always running back out? Why is Cat having to extend so far to try to get that? Like, I don't understand why we're playing drop coverage at all in the NBA playoffs in freaking 2025 against the Boston Celtics. That doesn't make sense to me. And then last is, I don't understand the lack of creativity in our offense that game. Like, I just don't. You have Karl Anthony Towns that's barely being utilized. Why did we go out and get a number 2 option to make him look like a number 3 or number 4 option? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, our offense should be almost as much, because we were told he's not even our 2. He was like our 1B. Like, if he's our 1B, should he not be involved in the offense almost as much as our 1? You know, like, at least in close proximity.
Just to chime in with that, like, have you ever seen a 1 and 2 guy ever not have a play where they work off each other, like a pick and roll play?
No,
Like, I've never seen it before. 2 guys that are your star players, and they never work with each other ever.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. You look at Cat and freaking Anthony Edwards now. Like, those 2 have learned how to work together. You know, yeah. And so, like, for me, sometimes it just looks like the Knicks led by Karl Anthony Towns or the Knicks led by Jalen Brunson, like, where one of them's Michael, and everyone else is Tito and Jermaine. You know, like, I don't understand that. Or one of them's Jada Kiss, and then the other guys are like Sheik in the background, you know, and like some of you remember his name, some of you don't, but he was in the Locks, you know, like, hey, I was there too,
Styles
you know, Styles P, you know, like, it's one of those things where it's like, I can't justify watching that. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. We can't go into this next game that same way, or it will be going to a game 7. Like, and I know people are like, oh, the Knicks are going to finally lock one down, you know, a series since 20 years. We said that last series. You know, we said last series that it was going to be the first time we locked down an NBA series at home in 20 years, and it didn't happen. You know, like I don't want it to go further than it needs to go. I want that revenge against the Pacers, and I want it now. But we can't play that same way and expect to win.
So I'm seeing a lot of, you know, Cat and Brunson and Tibbs talk. And like I said, everything can be right. But one thing I'm not hearing anybody talk about is the 5 for 26 between McCall and OG. You got McCall shooting 4 of 14. You got OG shooting 1 for 12. And you're making too much money to be shooting 1 for 12, especially in this kind of game. You know what I mean? So these guys have to play better. You know what I mean? It's everyone. Like I said, everybody is to blame. Everybody is to blame. The coach, JB. I mean, at this point, JB should have calmed down at the 4th foul. You know what I mean? Like, just let's ease up on the contact. I know you're trying to play them tough, but like, calm down. You know what I mean? Let the game come to you. You guys say it all the time. You know what I mean? You guys know all the mantras. You guys know all the sayings and shit after the game is over. But what about when the game is on the line? So, you know, it's one thing that we've always seen from Tom Thibodeau. He's never I can't say never. He rarely makes a great in-game adjustment. Great game-to-game adjustment. I'm pretty sure we're gonna win just from his track record. We're probably gonna win tomorrow. You know what I mean? And then now we're not going to be talking about this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, in-game adjustments can lose you an opportunity to win a championship. And he has to get better at that. I don't want to wait till next game to get better all the time. You know what I mean? Like, we don't need a day in between for you guys to figure out what the hell's going on in the court right in front of you that we're watching live. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, slight rant. But that's
I want to know, like, say, like, when these third quarters are going crazy, like, why doesn't he call a timeout just to stop the bleeding? Because I felt like when that league was dwindling, I felt like it was just like we was like literally watching like a Rocky film, and the guy on the side, like we're the guys on the side saying, throw in the towel. Like, it's like, yo, like, when are you gonna just stop it? Put a halt to it. Call timeout or something. You know, don't just let the league go from, okay, there's a 5-0 run, 6-0 run, 7-0 run. Okay, then it goes up to 17 and something run. Like, what the hell is going on? When are you going to call a timeout? Yep. You know, so, you know, little things like that, like it's just frustrating. You know, that's why people say that Tom Thibodeau's not a good coach. But then we'll have like a big game, and there's see all the people that said that Tom Thibodeau's not a good coach. They said, listen, man, like, if people have been calling you a crackhead all your life, it's because you was smoking crack, bro. You know what I'm saying? I forgot what comedian said that. A comedian said that. Say, yo, if people keep saying that you was smoking crack, bro, you are a freaking crackhead. You were smoking crack. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, like, if we've been saying the same things here and there all season, you know, and not even all season, just like his whole tenure, you know, then he does have these problems that need to be fixed. You know, so you know, anyway, it's frustrating, but at the same time too. You know, I guess you know, it's the grit. You know, everybody says grit. Even our guy Devin said it. The New York grit. You know, they just have that. So, you know, there's something to get behind. You know, that's all we asking for as a fan base is something to get behind. And that grit that they have, man, we just sitting there waiting for it to kick in every single game. And you know, as long as it does and we win, then I guess it's all good.
Yeah, and here's the one thing that for me. You know, someone was like, we need more scoring off our bench. Well, if you look at it realistically, like, we're not playing much bench guys. Like, and two of them, one of them's not an offensive guy at all. Like, our two actual bench pieces that are guaranteed to get minutes are Mitchell Robinson and Deuce McBride. Right. Mitchell Robinson's not there for offense. Like, he's there for rebounds on the offensive end, and he's there for defense. So any points you get from Mitchell Robinson is an added bonus, you know, that you didn't expect to get. But how can we expect more points from our bench when we pretty much have one bench scorer that's getting minutes, and that's Deuce McBride? You know, like, even in that last game, Cam Payne got 5 minutes, and 3.5 of them were in dead time when we already waved the white flag. So the only bench player that actually played that has offensive skill sets is Miles McBride, and he gave us 11. But imagine if we had another one or two guys that we actually played on the bench that amount, like, and gave us 10, 11 points. That's the one thing Boston has that we don't, is they have guys that they play off their bench that can give you some points. And we don't. Like, we don't have guys that we're playing off our bench that can score. So that's going to make a difference over time. It just is.
What's up with PJ Tucker? Why did we get him? We just got him for sneaker cred. What's going on with that?
Sneaker cred in the locker room talk. That's pretty much it.
I get it. I get it. But I mean, a guy like Jaylen Brown, right? He thinks he's doing something. To throw PJ Tucker is there for a reason, to throw him in there to start some stuff with PJ a little bit, like rough him up a little bit, just to get that in the mix. Same thing with Tatum, in that, and even in the Detroit series, we could have used that extra toughness, to help out with the extra, curricular activities that they were doing in Detroit. So I'm just pointing that out because there's other elements too that we could have used that we're just not using. Even simple, like say like a Cameron Payne. Cameron Payne is being reduced to just being like a guy that if he can hit a three, then great. Or if he get a floater every once in a time, great. But what happened to the pick and roll? He's a pick and roll point guard. Why don't we ever run pick and roll when Cameron Payne's out there? They never send a screen to him, and we never have anybody rolling with him or anything. We don't run any type of offense when he's in the game. That's just an example,
He's like using him as a scorer, but it's like that's not what he does best. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the opposite too with Deuce McBride, they got him as the first guard off the bench as like playing point guard and stuff. That's the opposite. He's not a point guard. He's the shooter. So there's a lot of little things that because I mean, I'm not gonna be long-winded, but Tom Thibodeau says the right things in the post game, but then when it comes to implementing things in game, like it doesn't match what he said in the post game. So
Yeah, and this is the one thing that I'll say. This is a funny comment by Prezi, where he said Shamet doesn't even want to shoot, which is true. But like you get put in for a minute here, a minute there. Like what do you expect? Like my thing is like if I don't think I'm gonna ever play and you bring me in for 1 minute, like the last thing I'm trying to do is like lose that 1 minute by shooting the wrong shot with Tibbs. But this part was funny. He said Precious be scoring on the other rim. But Precious hasn't really been able to do much either. It's been rough. Shout out right here to David Smith. He said that his things are being ignored. No, there's just a ton of comments going on right now, bro. But he talked about, Julius Randle has a better coach this year than last year and a better leader in Edwards this year than last year. I don't know about that second part. I don't know how much of a leader Edwards is, but I also don't think he's required to be a leader as much as he's required to be a star, because they do have a coach that does voice more of the decisions with the players. I do believe that maybe better coach isn't the word I'm going to use, but a more versatile, like, and up-to-date coach. Because I do feel like Tibbs has done some good things to warrant him being considered a good coach, but not a great coach because of lack of, like, we had the guys say earlier, lack of in-game adjustments to be able to fix things on the fly as opposed to fixing them by the next game. But some of the things that, really struck me was first, shout out to Josh Hart. I felt like he's the only guy that actually came to play in that last game. Like, he's the only guy that not only was willing to, sacrifice his energy, sacrificed his head, sacrificed,
his balls. So he got a sexually assaulted, man, in that game.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, that was like crazy. What was Jaylen Brown doing on that play?
Crazy. I don't know, bro. He was straight up like on his Diddy tip, for that whole game. Like, it was weird. And my bad, Bimmer, you were right, Bimmer. I gave Mitch shout out earlier for his effort, and like I was so impressed that even from game to game he worked on his free throws and went 6 for 6. So you're right, my bad. I appreciate that. And so yeah, Mitch did come to play that game.
Him and Josh were the only ones that really came to play.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll give you that. Yep.
So shout out to them too. But some of the post game stuff, had me a little bit, worried. In Ian Begley, had this quote. He said, Knicks let missed shots affect their effort on defense. And he was talking about how if they didn't get what they wanted on the offensive end, that they weren't coming back and playing defense. They were all up in their, emotions based off of their offensive production, that they didn't do anything defensively, and that also put them in a bigger hole. And that's problematic. That's problematic for sure, because we haven't been shooting great this series. So if we're not shooting great this series and you're going to throw a tantrum every time you don't shoot great, then that's a problem. That's a huge problem.
That's
And
been
then
a problem throughout the season too, right? That's happened throughout the season where if we're not shooting well, all of a sudden we start sulking and stuff like that,
Yep.
It affects the defense.
Yeah. And then Ian continued to talk about like our transition defense being subpar. And those are things we got to work at, and the hard thing is you go, okay, they're going to fix the things that need to be fixed. But when you hear stuff like Josh saying, I wish I could tell you, I wish I could pinpoint it, because then if I did, we can address it. Them saying they don't know, where they lost it, or what happened in that game. Like, I'm hoping that the coach knows what happened in that game and can figure it out. Like, we can't fix an issue if we don't know what the issue was. So I'm hoping they're spending a lot of time these next few days fixing those issues, trying to figure it out. They acknowledge that they played terrible, but they don't know what caused the terrible play besides lack of effort. The only one that I was really pleased with in his post-game interview was McHale, where he said that, no, it had nothing to do with refs. We didn't bring it defensively. Refs can't control how we play. Like, taking on full responsibility, like, we sucked at what we're supposed to do. The guy that's supposed to be our, staple for defense is saying he sucked defensively. That's what we need to see. We need to not just point it out, but also fix it. So what are your guys' keys, so we don't stay super long-winded tonight, but what are your guys' keys to winning this next game?
So I do want to mention one thing. Like, I know we keep talking about Cat and how many shots he gets to take and stuff like that. I mean, Deuce McBride played as many minutes as Cat tonight, and that's no one's fault but Cat's, because he's always in foul trouble.
Yep.
So I think he would get a lot more shot attempts. We don't go to him, but I think him just being on the floor and not being taken off the floor because of silly fouls every single game. It's the amount of rhythm Cat eliminates himself from is absolutely ridiculous. Every single game, he takes himself out of rhythm because he's trying to do something that he shouldn't be doing, and it usually leads to him in foul trouble. And then you got to get pulled from the game, and then you got to get back in rhythm. So, I mean, people talk about him taking he hasn't been taking threes. A lot of this stuff is rhythm. Even if you want him to go in the post and bully guys, a lot of this stuff is rhythm. Like, you have to be in rhythm. And one thing Cat has never been good at, and that's keeping himself out of foul trouble. It's since Minnesota he's been doing it. So this is nothing new. Even if you give him the ball every single time, at some point he's going to get himself out of the game because of foul trouble. But anyway, back to what we can do tomorrow that I think would help us. And it's just certain things that I was seeing. I think a lot of like double teams on Jaylen Brown, like throughout the entire game. And it's like these guys were already hitting threes. So why are we still doubling Jaylen Brown? You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of frustrating to see. Like, they don't have Jason Tatum. That doesn't mean that they don't have anyone else to put the ball in the basket. You know what I mean? So it's just a weird way of doing things. So you got OG Anunoby. You paying him $200-something million to be the defensive menace he is. Go out and earn it. Guard the best players. That's what we got you for. You know what I mean? And on the other end, let's just stop leaving Derek White. Like, if there's anybody that we should not be leaving on that team outside of Peyton Pritchard, it's Derek White. Just don't leave him. Why is he continuously open? I don't care what set they're in. If I see Derek White over there, I know they're going to pass it to him, bro. They don't have Tatum anymore. Who else are they going to pass it to? That he's their best shooter outside of Tatum. I guess outside of Tatum and Pritchard on that team. So, just use your head. You know what I mean? And one thing, like I said yesterday to my friends, I'm like, these guys, they played like ass tonight. I said, but at the end of the day, they needed to see how they were going to play, how the other team was going to play without JT. Which I'm not giving them the excuse, but like I said, one thing Tom Thibodeau is good at, if there's one thing he's good at, because he is good at one thing at least, and it's watching film and making adjustments after the damn game is over. Right. So hopefully we get to see more of that tomorrow. But yeah, man, you can't continuously leave the same guy who's been, how much did he have? 34 points, Derek White? Something like that. Yeah. Like, at what point did you think he was going to stop missing them? Like, I don't. And they're at home. I don't know. Sometimes it's kind of weird, but that's all I got. What about you, Eero?
Yeah, he was shooting 3.8% from three. Like, and that's the frustrating part. Is like this dude is shooting the three at a high clip and making them over and over and over. And yet that's the shot you give him, like
wide open. Jesus.
Why? Like, why not make him earn it? Like I just didn't get it. But yeah, what are your thoughts, Eero?
There's a hole in the Knicks defense because we allowed Malik Beasley to do the same thing in the last round. That he was every time you look around, one of the best 3-point shooters in the NBA is wide open again. So like there's definitely something going on with the way the Knicks rotate when they come in, after a rebound, they're running up the court. And then they're trying to find their man on defense. They get lost somewhere. That's little things like that. But Apollo said a bunch of cool things, man. But the Tom Thibodeau adjustment factor, like Tom Thibodeau says, he watches the game 4, 5, 6, 7,000 times after the game is over. So he's gonna come up with a game plan to fix what happened last time. So I got a feeling that the Knicks, we're probably not gonna find Derek White. He's still gonna shoot a lot of threes.
Yeah,
but I just think that we're gonna do enough, tomorrow to win the game. That's what I think. I would love for Towns to have one of those games where he just catching, shooting, because he had one of those in Detroit where he just went off. I'm hoping that he can have his moment. But just outside of that, man, I just think the Knicks are gonna pull through, and I just don't know how they're gonna do it, but they're gonna do it, from with their New York grit. That's really it, really.
Yo. Sorry, I got kicked off. It's storming here in Kentucky, but we got two people backstage. I'm gonna bring them up before I share my thoughts and we close out. Y'all might know this guy. Y'all might not. I know Mr. Eero knows this guy. So, Eero, why don't you give a good introduction? You see who's backstage?
No, he can't see it. Only I can see it.
All right, get Apollo. Give that intro.
For which one?
Not Mr. Fritz.
Oh, okay. So backstage, not Mr. Fritz, of course. Fritz is, everybody knows Fritz. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That guy Fritz. But backstage we got my cousin Steven Toon, to come up and talk to us about how he feels about the game. What's going on, Toon, man? Talk to us. How you feeling, man?
Hey, what's up, fellas? Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, bro.
What's good, cuz?
Peace.
So how I feel about this whole series is y'all made great points about, Tom Thibodeau making, adjustments after the game. But it's in-game adjustments that's the major problem. And we all know we have a guy like PJ Tucker on the bench. He's not the savior. That's not the point I'm trying to get at. But he has playoff experience, and he has veteran experience, and he has that grit that we need to go against a player like Derek White. He knows, hey, why y'all going underneath that screen when y'all should be going over top of that screen? Why are we having players like Cat switch off on shooters, and all he does is take 2 steps, look at him, and then want to throw his hands up? And it's like, that's unacceptable. And Tom Thibodeau, and he doesn't make the right adjustments when it comes to that. All I see every time that happens is he has that stupid ass look on his face, like he's constipated. And it's like, bruh, Like, gather yourself. You've made it this far. Stop trying to rely on your stars to come up with something, and you see that they're lost. When they was communicating in game 3, was it, or game 4? I think it was game 4. They were communicating well, and that's how we was able to get that win. Even though, Hope Tatum has a speedy recovery, but they were able to come through, pull through. Not to mention the back-to-back 20-point deficits that we came back from. They were communicating, and it's like, I don't see why why they can't do that, or just put a player like PJ Tucker in there to I don't want to say punch them in their mouth, but punch somebody in their mouth. You got people over here grabbing genitalias and all this other stuff. You got to go punch somebody in their mouth. Now, not me. I wouldn't allow that to happen. I commend Josh Hart for doing what he did, but someone would have had a 2-piece with a biscuit from Popeyes and no drink. I'm just saying.
No drink.
No drink at all. Give me the fine. I'll see y'all next game, or I'll see you in 2 games. It is what it is, but that's unacceptable. And it's like, I hope they don't allow these guys to come in the garden and try to embarrass us, and try to make saying like aha, and then we going back to Boston, and now we got to fight against the refs and the crowd, and it's too much.
Yep, got to finish it here.
Yep, and I appreciate that take, man. Like, my whole thing is, it doesn't have to be PJ Tucker. It doesn't have to be this guy. It doesn't have to be that guy, but it needs to be something. Like, at the end of the day, if what you're having isn't working, why not try something? Like, look at Boston. Like, they aren't expecting Hauser to be like their savior. They're not expecting Hauser to like change the game for them, but Hauser playing those minutes allows him to be a little more physical. If you have a player that doesn't really matter in the game at the end of the day that gets in foul trouble, that's not as big of a deal as your guys that do matter getting in foul trouble because they're out there for so many minutes back to back. Like, any contribution that Hauser gives Boston is a blessed contribution, at the end of the day. It's a contribution at that. And so for me, I'm like, just let something happen. Let someone try something, like there's way too many people getting paid to be in street clothes on that bench, like, especially because if you're going to say your, 7th man on your 7th man rotation is Campaign, and Campaign's playing 3 minutes in the game, like, no, that's not really, your 7th man. Like, don't tell me that's a 7th or 8th man rotation when he's playing the last 3 minutes of a game, or 1 minute in the second and then 2 minutes in the fourth. Like, that doesn't compute to me. So we just need something, that's just the frustrating part with me, is like, I want to try something. If what I'm doing right now is continuing to fail, I'm going to try something else because I don't want to continue to fail. So I appreciate that take, bro. Thank you so much. I'm going to bring Fritz up right now.
Hey,
my guy, Fritz. Have a good night, bro. Appreciate you.
Yeah, good stuff, man.
Yep.
Yo.
Hey, what's up, guys? What's up,
good?
Eru? What's up, Apollo? What's up, Phil?
Bro? Peace.
What's up, bro? What are your thoughts, my guy?
I would really like the Knicks to be the aggressor in this game. Like, stop, not be the reactive team. It's like, oh, we got, Boston's doing this. We got to do something, or the energy is off. Like, I don't mind going down if we went down swinging.
Yeah,
like you take a little bit more risks. I wouldn't mind that, but when you just play it safe, you're kind of going through the motions. We kind of know what that looks like on this Knicks team. Yeah. A little bit too often we see it. So I really, players like Campaign. I know he isn't the best player, but I don't mind Campaign because Campaign does things. He takes it, has an opportunity, he'll take it. I think the aggressiveness has probably been what has bothered me on these Knicks.
Yeah.
It's, especially in these first halves and these third quarters, we kind of slip into, automatic mode, I guess.
Yeah. And I think that's my key to this next game. Is I think what I'm frustrated with is, as I watch some of the other series, as they've played out. And I see teams like Indiana, and I see teams like Minnesota, and I see, the Nuggets and OKC, and I see these teams that are fighting for 4 quarters, in most of these games that I'm watching. Except for that last win, I have not seen the Knicks play a solid, like, tip my hat off to you 4 quarters of basketball. Like, we're either coming back from 20 or we're getting kicked in the mouth by 20. Like, that's crazy to me. Like, that's not, at the end of the day, basketball that you are super proud of your squad. Like, for me, I don't want the always having to come from behind. I want to straight up be like, yo, our team played 4 quarters of solid basketball. Like, I don't want to always have to, like, hope for the Rocky Balboa, like, redemption, like, oh, he's not really out, no, he's swinging, I don't want the Ultimate Warrior shaking the rope moments after you thought he was down, like, for the 3 count. Like, I want to see us actually fight for the whole game. And I haven't really seen that this series. Unfortunately, it's like we fight at certain parts of the game, like when we come back from those 20-point deficits, but, like, why are we letting it get 20 something points behind before we start fighting, or why are we now fighting because we're 20 something points behind in the 4th quarter and now we're trying to make a comeback because we don't want to lose, like, I just don't get that. That's the frustrating part for me, and I'm hoping that we don't see that in this Knicks game. Like, we need to go home and we need to wrap this up. Like, I said it in the Nick of Time episode before this series when they were asking, who wins this series, da 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 da. And I think things kind of change a little bit now that Tatum's gone. But one thing I said was, Knicks in 6. But if we let it go to 7, it could slip through our fingertips. Like, that's what I said. So for me, I'm hoping that this team wakes up, and when they actually take their, warm-ups off and they step onto the court tomorrow night, that from the first whistle to the final whistle, we see effort and we see ball movement and we see team ball. Like, if it becomes a one-man show, we're done. Like, Jaylen Brown had one of his, like, best games of the playoffs in that last game, and yet everybody else still ate in that series. Like, everyone else still ate in that game. Derek White was the one that, continued to shine throughout that game, even though it was Jaylen Brown finding ways to make offensive impact in so many ways last night. So that's my hopes, and that's my thoughts on this upcoming game.
A stat that a lot of people don't know about. You're probably gonna know the answer as soon as I ask the question. How many free throws you think Mikal Bridges is taking this series?
Oh, what, 2?
0.
0.
0. Not one. Not one. It's been 5 games, and Mikal Bridges has yet to take a free throw.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Listen, it's not a defining factor, but open your game up a little more, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can get 4 or 5 extra buckets a game just by getting to the line. You know what I mean? Just
he's like allergic to contact. Even when he does the mid-range jump shot, he'll get there, but then he shoots it kind of like
he fades all the way away.
He doesn't want any contact at all. He doesn't even want you to touch his arms. It's like he's like, like a neat freak or something, man.
It's weird. And that leads into why he is the Iron Man of the NBA, because he doesn't touch anybody. Yeah. All he's doing is running all game. He doesn't get any contact. He doesn't get fouled. I mean, he might get fouled in like a take foul situation, but he's not. Yeah, he's not getting like an and one going to the basket. Like, he literally only goes to the basket in fast breaks, or he might, a backdoor cut. He might hit one of those. But if there's somebody in the paint, he will not go up. He will drive baseline, keep going, come around, hook pass. It's like I said, it's not a defining factor. but it would allow us, number one, if I'm seeing that stat, Joe Mazzulla sees that stat, Jaylen Brown sees that stat, Derek White sees the. Come on, bro. You know what I mean? So there's just everybody wake up. You know what I mean? Just do what you're supposed to do, and that's play solid basketball for 48 minutes. You know what I mean? We should win this.
You know what's crazy, bro? Like, I think I'm gonna lose my mind if we have another game where we let Luke Cornett look like Rasheed Wallace. Like, that junk was crazy, bro. That white boy was sweating from head to toe, like drenched in sweat, making it look like he was defensive player of the year. Like, he was destroying our team on the defensive end. Like, it was crazy.
And they kept going at him. They kept going.
Yo, how often did Josh Hart get stuck, with Cornette on him, just standing on the island with Cornette, man? It's not a good look, man. Not a good look.
See, well, the thing about Josh that I'll give him credit for is Josh is the only one who hit threes. Like that, he's the only one that they let take any threes. But I mean, at least he was hitting them. He was 5 for 9. He hit 5 threes last night. And Deuce is the only one that hit more than one on the team. He hit 3 threes, and everybody else had 1 3. So, like, everyone has to play better. It's not just Cat. It's not just Brunson. Coach doesn't have to just coach better. Like, everybody has to step it the hell up. Like, Mitchell Robinson, do exactly what you did. You know what I mean? Come back, do exactly what you did. And if everybody does their job as well, then that is every piece of the pie that you need. You know what I'm saying? And then you can. This shouldn't be a game. But like I said, I do feel like the NBA needs this series. So I do think there was some sort of fix. You know what I mean? I think they, as much as it would have been beautiful to see us win last night, they made a lot more money by having one more game this series. You know what I'm saying? At least. And just a New York Boston series is like what every sport needs. Every single sport out there, American sport that is. But hopefully we can see something different in New York because just let the best team. It'll be too obvious if they try to insert themselves in the game like they did last game.
Yeah, I agree. Well, boys, I had fun. If you guys, have any other thoughts, we'll chop those up real quick. If not, let's just see what happens tomorrow night. Everybody in the chat.
Something though?
Yeah.
Sure.
Hey Fritz, what you wearing?
He's so stupid.
I feel like you got you got like rollers in your hair and you got like a bathrobe and
the perm and everything. You talking about?
Yeah, you got a big perm right now.
The perm and everything.
Now that you guys have a visual to give you sweet dreams tonight, we appreciate all you guys. We appreciate Dixon for being part of the episode tonight, sharing his whiskey blending genius. If you guys can, please follow and support 2XO whiskey. They are worth it. Like, seriously, go pick up the vinyl blend tomorrow. If you see the sneakerhead blend as well, it's really, really dope. It's where the vinyl is here. It's got a looks like a Nike high top. It's just a dope bottle as well. So support what they're doing. Next week we'll be talking about another brand. Hopefully we'll be in the next series, and we will be talking about 13 Stars Bourbon, which sent me 15 Stars Bourbon, which sent me a 13-year aged whiskey. It's not a cheap bottle, and I'm super thankful that they, rock with what we're doing and sent us that sample. And Apollo's got it there. So we will be doing that one right there. So that one's going to be, let's see, 15 stars. Let's see. Give you guys a little sneak peek on what it is. So it's a 15. It's called the Timeless Reserve. And it's aged 13 years. And they sent me a bottle, even though they only have 1,800 bottles that were made of that whole thing. So shout out to them. at 15 stars. Looking forward to that next week. Appreciate everybody in the chat. You guys are amazing. If you can, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Post this on your Twitter, your Facebook, your Instagram, so that people can catch it on the playback. And tomorrow night, make sure you lock in with our Nick of Time family for the post-game show as Lee Escobedo, Jay Ellis, and Ebony break down what we hopefully can say is the wrapping up of the second round of the playoffs for us as we move into the Eastern Conference Finals and get ready to knock in Halliburton's teeth. So thank you guys so much. We appreciate you guys. Drink responsibly, and like always, God bless. Boys, appreciate you. Like always, have a good night.
Holla.
This is the moment we waited for. Everything you want is right here. We gon' give them what they came for. We gon' take it up from last year. Shoot 'em my shot, boy, I'm long range. Me and the team on the same thing. Stayed down, never switched up. Only thing changed was the game. I'm in the zone now. Nothing can change what we on now.